title at school?
Okay, John McCarthy, Director of Marketing, Recruitment and External Relations, Liverpool Hope University, UK.
Thanks, John. Can you talk to me a little bit about why you decided initially, the first time around, to go with Hobson's for this technology?
First went for the Hobson's technology in 2000, over 9 years ago, because at the time I saw it as being really innovative. It was well ahead of anything else that was on the market. It was clearly carving out a new way of dealing and interacting with potential students. And I just saw huge potential. And I was fortunate enough to be able to implement it in one institution. Then I moved on and implemented it again, and I moved on and I've implemented it for the third time. And there's probably not many people that can wear that badge. And I think that's partly a statement of personal confidence in the system and what it will do. And it's been great to see the system develop from the early days of its e-coms, communications technology, as Hobson's have acquired all the other bits and pieces which are giving it a much more integrated suite for dealing with prospective students. And I think now that looking at things like the how you deal with applicants, and then looking at the retained product, I think really does give it an integrated sort of whole set of solutions. So I'm a big advocate.
Yeah, people like you are making my job a lot easier. That's for sure. When you came to Liverpool Hope, how did bringing in the Hobson's solution change the way that the office was working and change the way you did business there?
I think bringing in certainly Connect into the new team at Hope gave them a whole new insight into, I suppose, what marketing was about. When I arrived, the admissions team, I suppose the recruitment team was separate from the marketing team. That didn't last very long, and I won the political battle to bring that into marketing, and said admissions is a marketing function. So I was fortunate in being able to bring all the right people together in one team, in my own team, to basically then say, right, these are going to be the new business processes. We're going to replace paper and postcards and letters with electronic communication, with immediate response mechanisms. We're going to monitor students' interactions with us. And it was giving us a level of information and a level of data, I suppose, in terms of student interaction that the university just never had before. And if I suppose I'm absolutely truthful, hand on heart, when I went in and said, what happens to all the inquiries that go into our current system? They said, what do you mean what happens to all the inquiries? And it's quite simply a case of people filled in a prospectus request form online. The prospectus was sent out and the data was never looked at again. So the sort of whole sort of redesign the process to say, well, actually we should be engaging with that group in terms of open days, in terms of birthday cards, in terms of e-Christmas cards, in terms of just here's a little bit of news from the university, or here's some new courses that are on offer. I think just changed the whole process. And then when we layered that to what the admissions team were doing, where they would say, we haven't got enough staff to be able to possibly respond in 24 hours. You say, well, actually, if you set up a very simple export from SITS into Connect, you can do an electronic confirmation of, hey guys, we've got your application. So I think it revolutionised the way the admissions team saw their work. And certainly the manager of that unit now is a real advocate of Connect in her own right, saying, she's now saying, well, why don't we do that in Connect? Or why can't we do this or do that? And other things, I suppose, is things like the survey function. I'm a great believer in getting feedback. And example for me now is that if we have an open day on a Saturday, we're in a situation where the survey goes out Saturday afternoon. Once people are registered for it, they can turn up on the day. We tick them off the list, apply the filter in Connect, bang out the survey. When I come in on Monday morning, I've got there are the results from the people who went to the open day on Saturday. So when I go to the executive, I can say, of the 600 people that came on Saturday, 340 have given us a response. 40% of them now have a greater propensity to come to the university than they did before. So again, that's the sort of level of feedback they never have had before. Would have been, give them a bit of paper, take it away, send it back to us. If it was sent back to us, it went into a box on the floor, and it would sit on the box on the floor until the next time the survey was given to people and sent back, and would go on top of the last lot of questionnaires, because people never had the time to analyse it. So I think the technology itself has actually, I suppose, enabled and driven a lot of change. And I think the managers and the individual people with sort of day-to-day responsibilities are starting to see, not starting, they have seen how the technology can make their lives really better, and it can make them better at what they're doing.
Staff adoption has been pretty good, or how would you describe the staff adoption of the solution?
The staff adoption has been very, very good for the most part. In terms of taking on board the system. The biggest challenge I've had in my current institution has been the answer product, where there was lots and lots of concern about who's going to answer all the questions. I'm saying, but once it's populated, they won't need to be answered. And people go, no, but who's going to answer the questions? And in the end, I just basically had a tantrum and said, it's going live, it's going on the home page, and we'll just see what happens. And I think it spoke for itself that within the first week, if we'd had 7 open questions, that was it, out of 200-300 inquiries that had hit it. And now the level of inquiries is running 300, 400, 500, 600 a week, and the number of unanswered or open questions, a dozen, not even that probably in a week. So again, I think for the most part I've been able to lead them, and then once or twice you just have to be the boss and say, this is happening.
That's great. The UK schools that have been using Answer, they've been giving us a lot of really great feedback about it. It's a big hit in the States, so
yeah.
It's good to hear that it works on both sides of the pond, for sure. Can you talk a little bit about, because you get this obviously very well,
yeah.
And you've been using it for a long time. Can you talk about cost savings and time savings now compared to what other schools that you've been at have used previous to using the Connect CRM? You don't have to necessarily give specific numbers, but
I think cost savings. I think the benefit of the system is twofold. One is, yes, there is certainly cost savings, and in the previous institution we estimated the cost savings to be something like 90% of our mailing costs, just by being able to do things electronically and to pick up response rates. So things like invitation to open days. So you suddenly mail out 8,000 postcards, and so by the time you've designed them and printed them and posted them, to design basically an e-invitation and to chuck it out through Connect costs you pence, because there's no cost per individual mailing there. So you're saving an awful lot of money. But I think there's also the efficiencies which I've talked about. That, again, if you think about producing a card, by the time you get it designed, somebody's got to sign it off, allow a week for printing, allow a week for somebody to print labels or whatever it may be. Then you just sort of think, well, actually, this is getting... the process is much longer than it needs to be. You can't be spontaneous, again, which you can be with Connect. So if you suddenly got some really good bit of news about on campus, and you say that's relevant to that group of students, you can just fire it off. Whereas traditionally you'd say, well, we'll have a nice letter, or we'll design a postcard, or we'll design a flyer, and it's going to come from the dean, by which time everybody's lost the will to live. You're 6 months after the news, it's no longer news, and at which point you say, well, there's no point doing it, and a huge amount of money's being wasted. But I think it's also efficiency, and I think it's how the students then perceive the institution in terms of the service that you're giving them, and that by responding quickly to their application, by responding with things like a survey to an open day, or dealing with an open day booking electronically, all of those sorts of things. I think students sort of see that, this university, this school is obviously on the ball. They're using technology that is native to most of the students now. I think they then see other universities that are doing things that are slower, not as responsive, can't be as immediate, can't be as interactive, and I think you get a sort of much greater efficiency in what you're doing, and the students see it, and I think that the students like it, and you can have a bit of fun with it. Actually have online competitions with students about having sort of basically viral campaigns. The one that springs to mind is a few years ago created a viral campaign, a Christmas card, 2 characters having a snowball fight, but part of it was name the characters. And again, it's about trying to develop this interactivity with applicants. And again, that has this sort of viral nature to it. They email it to their friends, there's a little bit of fun in it. And the whole idea of that was that by having this sort of initial viral, you then have got the whole story of, students have offered the names, this is the student, so you can then email, so having done the Christmas card, you then email in January to say, here are the profiles of the 2 students who won the naming of the 2 characters, here's the next storyline, and again, you've got the next sort of interactive, and it sort of feeds off itself. And again, I think it just enables that sort of innovation that is otherwise difficult. You can't do it in traditional media. So I think it's not just a case of cost savings, which is clearly there, But it's also that efficiency. It's a university that sort of they go, wow, my university I applied to was quick off the mark. They came back to me. This is a cool place. They're doing some interesting stuff. As opposed to, actually, they've just sent me a traditional A5 mailing. The skies are blue, the sun is shining, everybody's sitting on the grass, everybody's smiling, and cover up the logo, and it could be anywhere. Whereas I think the benefit of the interactive media is that you can actually be a bit more personal about your own institution. So I think it's not just cost savings.
Sorry, can we do the last question pretty quickly?
Yeah, let's do it. That's okay.
Okay, sorry.
That's fine.
No, this is
I didn't even do that, but around.
The one, actually, I really only had one other question anyway. And we'd like to have you describe your experience at Connect to You. Obviously, it's different for the UK schools, but you meet schools from Australia, and obviously some from the States and some from the UK. What would you tell people if they were thinking about coming to it now?
Certainly. I mean, this is the second Connect to You that I've been to. I'm always fascinated to see what other people are doing with the system. I think particularly as having been an early adopter and then having felt I've fallen behind a little bit, it's always interesting to see what others. You go away fired up and you see what others are doing, and you sort of, the challenge for me is, if they can do that, I can do it better. And I think, again, I've talked about the system at conferences before to people, and I said the system is easy. It's your imagination is the thing that will give you the edge. And I think if this conference does anything, it fires that imagination. And I think the challenge is probably to go away from the conference with your imagination fired up, and not to let the day job, when you get back to your office, stop you from implementing those things. And I guess for a lot of people, when they get back to their day job, Connect to You disappears into the back because of the 2,000 emails they've got in their inbox and all the voicemails. But certainly, when I came 2 years ago, we took some stuff away from here, and there's certainly plenty that's going to go back to the UK from this year's conference.